Good morning. Welcome back. All right. Before we get started, uh, MT Live. We were off for 2 weeks for holidays, so we're doing one Wednesday at 12 o'clock. The best candlestick patterns for 2026. I look for the best ones every single day, no matter what the year is, but we'll look through some live charts and see what's shaking. All right, let's see what's shaking today. See here. I need a screen. Screen. Well, Max, should be the screen. All right. So last I looked, markets were up a little bit. Dow was up, then it was down. We saw some nasty stuff going on at the end of the day last week, but there's still pretty decent looking patterns out there. So market seems to be in what could be a transition. It has been correcting for a while, depending on where you look. And so where's my little drawing tool there? And you can see here, the S&P's made a new all-time high. Right? Was it week before last? As we all know, the Qs have been lagging. And you can see Apple topped out at the beginning of December. And so last week it looked, and it was looking great on Friday. That was a green bar. And we always say, you know what? Let's see what this looks like at 3 o'clock. And there's a prime example why we say that. Because you may have bought that. Oh, look, it's retesting a prior low. It's a bullish wide range bar. Let me get in some of that. At the end of the day, it's a topping tail bar. I can't tell you in the early years when I used to answer the phone intraday, we had offices and it was at the beginning and people would call up, what do I do with this? It's like, well, it didn't trigger. There wasn't a setup. I said, I don't know what to do with it at this point, cut it in half. Um, anyway, this is just an example why we say that. Here's Google and these little dots there, what's happening today, pre-market. So that broke out above the highs and it got rejected. Maybe it's all end of year, beginning of year stuff. So we need to see how it shakes out. Meta, pivot, pivot. Last week we had discussions in the green room about creating support and retests and so on. And so, this had a nice move up. It pulls back, creates a pivot. We look for retests of that to come relatively soon. It could happen now, but ideally, and I can't really tell you how many bars or anything like that, but something like Apple would probably have been okay that many bars ago. But we look for symmetry. Let me just put it that way. So had it come down the beginning of last week and formed a bullish wide range bar, it didn't do that. There was no retest of the pivot. And now pivot high, trading range. Which way is it going to go? Amazon looked great. Intraday was a green bar, sold into. Tesla, constant selling. We'll see if this makes a low here now that it's a wide range bar. So you had a wide range bar possibly ending multiple days down. It's not climactic. It's on the 50. We'll see if it can turn around. Netflix, still going on with Paramount, trying to buy that company. That broke down. Magnificent Seven doesn't look good. Now, NVIDIA, now that's today. So that is flying in the face of this other stuff, but everything is holding for the moment. So I wouldn't get sucked into anything early on unless it's already set up. The better the symmetry, the better the setup. Well, I think so. It's based on historical patterns, Robert. So when you start looking at patterns over and over again, you know that you have to give things leeway. It's not an exact, situation where you're looking at something and it's got to be exactly that. That's not good. You're in the area. So one of the things I would say, if the distance is too far, like say with this one here with Google, and it happens over here. Well, that's a pivot, black and white. It's retesting a pivot, black and white. What kind of bar does it form? And what preceded that? Meaning, if it had come down like this to the 50 as I drew it, that would be more symmetrical, and then getting a green bar that would make sense versus it happening over here and it was preceded by a breakout failure. So you have to put together these pieces. And this is part of what we'll talk about in MT Live on Wednesday. So, save the questions for then. MT Lives are always great. And this will be another one. So NVIDIA looks pretty good. Again, was rejected on Friday. It's up here a little bit this morning, but if it can close like this, I think we're going to be looking for this to go higher. And Microsoft, a lot of software stocks were ugly into it, and different ones that I covered in the weekend letter, really nasty looking stuff. By that I mean aggressive selling. What was going on there? So it's not all good stuff out there, but there's some decent looking patterns and uptrends, or the bottoming patterns haven't been working out all that well. Some of them, some gains, and some of them were, what bottoming patterns do, they failed. And look, that's why we have stops, right? Okay, so let's see what's going on here. All right. And so we've had this little correction last week, and we here's the Dow futures retesting a pivot, and look to the left. Ours came in there, pushed it up. We got a trading range. You can see. Got a lower pivot high. I'm not drawing trend lines. I'm just showing you that things are contracting here. Anyway, you get what I'm doing. And that's a good example, right? Here's the trend line traders like, what the hell? Right? They connect their dots, and it breaks through their magical line, and it flips right back up again. That's why trend lines are pretty much useless. And so break up, it's contracting. Uh, Call it an apex, call it some kind of triangle. And there's a lot of this going on where these forces of supply and demand are coming together, and it's got to break one way or another. Now it's the beginning of the month. A lot of times the beginning of the month is bullish. We still got a whole lot of open interest betting on 7,000, which was the upside target this year. And that didn't happen. So if this can get going, maybe it could be like a last hurrah in a move up. That was my thinking over the weekend. So I just was, based on what was going on, like patterns like this, whipsaws, lower highs, prices are contracting, pivot high is relatively close, pivot low is relatively close, whipsaws on the 65-minute time frame. This isn't high probability environment at the moment. This is one where traders are trying to figure it out. Institutions are trying to figure it out. Which way are we going to go? It makes sense to buy at support, of course, sell at resistance, but where's the trend? Big whippy sideways trend. There's no trend. Right? ES, mentioned last week, it didn't make a new all-time high. Came up to the highs. You've got lows here, trading inside this bar. We'll see if this can get going. So as we always do, look at multiple time frames, breakdown, rejection, deep retracement. Can it go sideways? If this goes sideways here for a few hours, and I'd like to see the S&Ps, not just this overnight trading. The S&Ps, they'll gap up. Well, yeah, because this is the day chart, right? What happened during the trading day. This is pre-market and overnight. It gaps up into this area where resistance is, and it can hold. That begins to build our confidence that it could go up. So maybe this can go up. Right? So again, if we can get 2, 3 days down here where it begins to build a base, greater confidence that it could go higher versus maybe getting whipsawed here. Right. R2K. Yeah, we're going to take a look at oil. I know it's in the news. Um, Lower high, lower low into an area of significant support. So it held that area. It's got room to go up. Resistance is up here. From what I see so far, it's the best looking one to consider for longs intraday. We got a nice little consolidation there with a bottoming tail bar at the top of a wide range bar. So that looks like it could go up decent looking. All right. Bitcoin, is it finally making the turn? Maybe. It's still in the trading range. But encouraging now that it retested that pivot. It held, it consolidated. Now it's moving up to the resistance area. And this is where, like I use the analogy, the heavy lifting starts, because this is where the supply is. And a declining 50 MA is in that area. It got rejected here the last time. And here's the weekly chart down the bottom left. So let's see what it does. Same analysis, different time frame. Does it puncture through it? Does it stall and go sideways there, which gives us greater confidence that it can go up into this area? Or does it get rejected again? We need information. Here's Erythium coming up into converging moving averages. And we use moving averages. They're as subjective as any other indicator. What's to the left there? Not really much. Right? They're just focal point, those that use moving averages, but I can see where it's at here. I have to look at, overnight trading. It's relatively close to that. So if you look at maybe ETH, there's nothing there. Anyway, those that are trading futures are going to be looking at that, and charts create beliefs. Converging moving averages, especially a 50 and a 200, are going to create a belief that it's going to stall there. So it's stalled. We'll see what it does. All right, gold is up a little bit today. We know it got shellacked, came down hard, stabilizing, starting to move back up. It's got room to go back up. So after a big wide range bar like that, it certainly creates a little bit of a, not so sure, without a larger area of support being created like it what happened here. So I think I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Silver looks great. I know it got whippy and all erratic here, but so far it's holding up. Oh, sellers aren't running away. They came in to buy before it got towards support and a rising 20, and that's bullish. All right, oil, no big deal. It's been really erratic and whippy. The weekend news was meaningless and turned out to be, right? We don't know what the reaction of the markets will be, but in any event, just looking at the chart, nothing of significance has happened here, nothing unusual. It continues to be trending down in an erratic, whippy way with tails and overlapping bars. So one thing that we did cover last week was this rotation into energy. And so this was a split. Let's look at OIH. Hopefully that didn't split. If it did, there you go. That's more along the lines of what we're seeing. And this kind of pull back and sharp move up. But maybe somebody in the know knew what was coming, and they bought some energy stocks, and look at this gapping up now. So whatever. We're not privy to that news. And we'll see what shakes out. Some of them were looking good. Like I mentioned, this one over here that was talked about in the green room, and it triggered. I'm not sure. I know some did it. I don't know if it was stopped out, but here's an example, Robert and everyone, of a retest pattern. So when you put this together, this is ideal for what we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. Right? You look at candles, and this was go and read the chart of the week that I wrote. Sometimes you look at candles and they're just random, and you look at red bar and you think something. Oh, there's a green bar, you think something. There's a bottoming tail, but unless you know how to put it together, you're just going to be confused. But here, prices come down. Right? Yes, last week we talked about the angle of retracement as an attribute of trend strength in the room. So when something comes down in a very sharp angle, like gold did, it's like, that's a lot of selling. That's a change in its personality. And then it forms a pivot. And so you go to the next thought processes. Right? A retest of that should bring in buyers. And that builds a larger pattern, which we can have greater confidence in. So pivot, I believe there'll be buyers there. It's in an uptrend. Buyers show up. That's what we call a 1, 2, 3. It went up, and you can see now it's gapping up, right, on the news. Oil's not, but in any event. So there's oil stocks out there that look like, well, now if you're not in them, you got to wait for them to pull back or do whatever they're going to do. Right. Spiders, SPX, get to that. Bizarre. I'll be right with you. Hand it over to Dan. All right, where's SPX? Gapping up to the top of those two bars. See my cursor there and where it is on the 65-minute chart. So I'm gapping up into an area of resistance, and we'll see how it handles that. We look at SPX. Nothing. This got close, but on the dip, right? It's on the dip. So you know that this is our extreme number. On the dip, when it goes down there, right, you go and you look for stabilization. And if it dips fast, there'll be premium below here. But historically, these extremes that we look at tend to be quite reliable. They are quite reliable. But, things happen. So that was last week's number. This moved down even though the market's up. That's a good thing. That's a good sign. 69.20. And that one didn't move. This is like, I think, the third or fourth time. No, they've moved, but they haven't moved very much. And it was like, as the market has moved, the upside number, like 2 days in a row, didn't move. So that's the same. That's the same as what it was last week. And what does that mean? Well, what it means to me is that even though the markets are moving, and sometimes even these relatively minor moves that happen overnight move these strikes considerably. And whereas now the markets on a day-to-day basis, I wouldn't say they're moving too much, especially when you see overnight bars. And I also suspect it's people coming back from holiday and getting back into the groove of things and wanting to see more information, the economic data, and whatever they're looking at. But these strikes aren't moving very far from where they were the prior day. So it's kind of in alignment with this messy chart that we see that just what the chart communicates, most don't know, right? What to make out of what's happening right now. It's like there's still some really good looking charts out there. Meanwhile, you look at the spiders that are in a trading range of condensing, and you look at Microsoft, or you look at the Qs here with this big nasty red bar, and it's like, what do you do with that? You do nothing. You do nothing. As an intraday trader, you find setups, but from this time frame, you do nothing. You just wait for something to happen. What does that mean? Something cleaner, like this. It's a lower high, lower low, but you're getting a reversal here. It could go up a bit, If you're willing to give it a lot of room, if you think small caps are going to do something, you could do a starter position. In any event, like I said, intraday, it looks like this is the best looking one, like it could go higher. Um, semis, yeah, kind of the same, depending on which one you look at. XLK, that one split. Even financials came down hard. So a lot of mixed messages. We'll see what shakes out. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. When I heard the news on Saturday morning about the Maduro invasion, I immediately thought that explains the price action on Friday. I mean, I don't know if that's what made the fangs weak, but even today, with the Qs up, the fangs are not, other than the video that Greg went through them all, are a big old mess. And there are a lot of ugly patterns. But as Greg said, there's a lot of wonderful ones. We have a huge watch list, both for the letters and watch list with additional alarms. So I have a ton of alarms going off. Let's go through them here. Slob, I was going to put this in the weekend letter as a 1, 2, 3, and then it just took off. And so I am 100% confident that the smart money knew about the invasion. Come on. That's where the SEC, look at the size of that bar on Chevron. And now it's gapping up $10. Yeah, right. I mean, the SEC, whoever bought over 1,000 shares, the SEC should write them a letter and say, oh, really? Can tell me your motivations behind that trade? But nothing we can do. It's going to change it. And then ITA was ripping on Friday. That's military. So doesn't that make total sense that military and oil would be moving? And then on the strike, we don't have futures over the weekend, which I, to this day, think it's just ridiculous that they don't trade 24/7. So I looked at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin wasn't moving on the news of the invasion. So that was my best guess. Okay, the market doesn't care then. And as you see, we're actually up. SCCO, it's the gap's too big. And I have an unusual amount of alarms going off relative, in my opinion, to the size of the gap. Well, I guess 3 6. Well, I guess wow. I mean, who would have thought we'd be gapping up to the high on invading another country and rattling Russia and China and Cuba and Colombia? That's not our job to think, I guess. It's our job to react. All right, if you all ask me about symbols, they scrolled up. Sorry, just ask me again. I remember SCCO, but it's too extended. A Pelletier CEO is on the box here. That's military also. Could maybe put spread 30-minute high. Yeah, all three of these, I looked for put spreads, and they're just too spready, the three cousins. But this one, I have it on my list. The alarm went off. I had it on my list for a 1, 2, 3. But yeah, it's top of the range. A 1, 2, 3 would have been perfect. Look at that 15-minute chart. It also would have been a good fit, because day trade, because that's an end of day base. But the gap's messing it up. I mean, I looked at all three of these for put spreads. I mean, that's SanDisk, that's a no-brainer put spread. And then, so I think this was another example of news leaking out. I read in the news this morning that, I don't know, somebody's talking about raising prices again on these products. So that's, I think, why they're all three of them up. And I told you the story about my new computer. The sales guy said, yeah, prices went up because the friggin' hard drives got tripled in value, not in value, in cost. And the KTOS alarm just went off. I said, sell a third pre-market. That looks great. That is a beautiful bottoming pattern. So we entered on Friday. You know, it's flattening out, downside shakeout, new high, buy setup. That's avoid. Looks fantastic. Target 90 or high 80s, whatever. So we sold a third and we're in trail mode. Let me set a new alarm now. 85. So if you all in this room don't get our three letters, whichever things you trade, you don't get the telegram, and that's your loss. Let's look at all these alarms I got going off. Morgan Stanley, I was hoping for 123. That looks good. Life. And we're actually short this. I don't mean, looks like my alarm went off. With a new alarm, 65. Oh, actually, the low alarm went off this morning. HII. That's a beautiful buy setup. All right, so all right, these gaps are going to mess us up because this was a long. There was a lot of beautiful buy setups. Let me type Telegram a note real quick. You know, anything, you know, that's what I'll be focused on at the Monday mornings. I'm always focused on opens, but for new trades, I'll be focused um, on entries. And if they're gapping too much, and this is an example, HII, do not, do not. The reward to risk is whacked now with a gapping up $5. I'd be selling half right here. You see? GSET. That's a nice buy setup after a retest. It's actually two buy setups in a row. This is one, but it came down hard, went up, and you got another one. So the question is this extended? This one is not, it's only gapping up $1. But this one, I'm going to say it's okay on a pullback. And then we got to watch it. And let me put that in a window and, 5-minute chart, and I'll be watching to get on board that one. WWD. Another buy setup. All right, so that one's kind of hard to tell where it's gapping is the problem. I'm going to put that on this minute chart. Oh, that PC actually. We're short this from Friday. And look at that beautiful relative weakness. All right, I'm behind here. NUE is a clear, not clear, a clean hit. AC low alarm, awesome. I love when the market caps and your trades in the opposite direction are working. All right, so look at PC. This is beautiful weakness. I started putting together slides for MT Live. And actually top patterns is really, the whole course, right? When you think about it, when we talk about our top patterns and explain them. So I'm going to have a hard time limiting the slides because every single slide is telling you about price action. Look at page C, breakout failure, tails, tails, 1, 2, 3, breakout failure, wide range bar. Beautiful. All right, Bravo X-ray was a go. That one was a clean hit. Alta, come on, computer. All right, a ton of alarms going off here. Alta. Alta's a clean hit. Baxter, WWD. That would have been okay had you bought the opening print, but I cannot take credit for it because it's just realistic. Who would have done that? RTX alarm, we're already in, but that looks great. Vic, why did my alarm go off? It triggered. Maybe I didn't set the alarm. G-set. All right, I sit on the pullback. Look at this curve, bottom right. That's a big old bottoming pattern. Hey, with a nice pre-market. It's, top of the range, but this price action bottoming pattern tells me that it'll slowly get through it. I'm not going to do anything yet, but that's a nice bottoming pattern. All right, Pru alarm. Let's see how it closes. IYZ up alarm. Now it's yours. Telecom. Leah alarm. That'd be a beautiful 1, 2, 3. I didn't like the reward to risk as a new trade, but if you get a 1, 2, 3, I like it. TPG. Alarm went off. That looks good. Baxter. Bottoming pattern. MSauce. Still a dog. Rocket Man is a bear sandwich. Let's see if we get a 1, 2, 3. RCL, nothing. Ally. It's a buy setup, but it's up a lot. Alta, Himex. Himex would have been a great put spread, but there was nothing. Lunar. Lunar would be a great 1, 2, 3 if it closed like this. Howie. Bottoming pattern. That's fine. Sure. I like the 15 also, Thomas. Sure. Looks like can go to 40, 41. Diamonds IWM moving here on the 5. I suspected diamonds um, would do well with some of the oils up a lot, and the video, of course. Yeah, but wow, Cemex just gapped to an all-time high. Man, XLF is a buy setup I mentioned on Friday. Apple is the weakest thing, followed by Microsoft. Those both look horrible. Meta, no pattern. Netflix has been a dog. Tesla is a big friggin' mess. All right, I think those are all my alarms. Oh, LIF, nice. Low alarm. So now we can move stop break even on life. thick. One second. Okay, C, looking great. 63. Charlie, India alarm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, Greg mentioned that in the video. Yeah, that's, grinder. Whoa, that was a nice trade there, HII, but we didn't chase, obviously. All right, GSAT filled the gap, so that's okay. Gap filled, GSAT. I'm way behind on alerts, like over on Monday. Ah, GSAT was a put spread, not a directional. Ah, okay. But you know what? It could be a 30-minute high. So I probably confused. Right, so GSAT 60-50 put spread. That spreads are nuts. We got to cancel that. But let's watch it for directional.
Just set a buy stop at today's high.
GSAT?
On that one that you're looking at.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
down now, but maybe Tim's a bottoming tail barn.
yeah. Right. I was gonna wait 30-minute high, but we can do a
He
high.
won't be watching it. That's why I said just put in a buy stop.
All right.
You might go to the gym and it triggers. Look at deck.
Yeah, we just did. $65. Whoa, Oscar November. I gave this directional and put spread, but there's no way we're gonna get filled in the put spread. 734. Lunar triggering. Wow, we got a ton of longs triggered this morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 already. Wow. Hey, eBay up alarm. We have a half lot. That's a big bar on the 15-minute chart. Stop. Right, it's low, being 643. It does. Let's move stuff under 81. Cape Toss was such a beautiful bottom pattern. Wow, Alex, your Morgan Stanley ripped. Man, look at Banks. 15-minute bar. Oil came in hard. XOP filled the gap already. Oh, excuse me.